Welcome, everyone, to the NoDQ.com live recap of Monday Night Raw for May 5th, 2025. Shout out to everybody watching, whether it's live or on demand. I very much appreciate your viewership and support. Let's get into the recap. We have WWE Backlash this coming Saturday. Check out NoDQ.com for live coverage. Also, we will be doing predictions for Backlash Thursday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Now, we had a recap from last week, Sami Zayn being destroyed by Bron Breakker. This week, we kicked off with the World Heavyweight Champion, main event Jey Uso. The crowd was yeeting. They got an encore. He called out Logan Paul, but instead of Logan Paul, we got a different Paul, and that was Paul Heyman. Jey Uso said that Paul had a lot of balls to be there after what he did at WrestleMania to the bloodline and the family. Jey said he warned his cousin Roman Reigns about Heyman. Heyman's response: he said somebody should have warned him about CM Punk, his so-called best friend who put him in a bad situation. And then Heyman discussed Reigns, said that it was Reigns who blew it at WrestleMania 40, losing to Cody Rhodes. And then Roman Reigns left. Heyman was by himself and got destroyed by Solo Sikoa's bloodline. Heyman said he's always the scumbag, but not this time. He was irate. He was crashing out. Paul Heyman felt like he was going to have a heart attack there. He was so upset, so angry. He said, screw Jey Uso for blaming him. And then the crowd started chanting asshole at Paul Heyman. I agree with Ian. One of Paul Heyman's best promos, certainly one of his best promos in many years. Paul Heyman was on absolute fire here. And then Jey wanted to know what the hell all this had to do with him. And Heyman said he didn't come out there to talk about Reigns and Punk. He apologized for that. He said that Jey Uso doesn't know how to wield power and control. And he said that Jey wants to be champion, but Seth Rollins has to be champion. Heyman said that Bron Breakker was stage 1 of their plan, and now stage 2 is taking the World Heavyweight Championship. He said he was going to do a favor for Jey and let Jey pick the night that he will be losing the title, because Seth Rollins was officially challenging Jey after beating Roman Reigns and CM Punk at WrestleMania. Jey said, how about right there, Monday Night Raw in Omaha, Nebraska, and the match was set. This was a hell of a segment to open up the show, and very rarely do we get a world title match as the main event of Monday Night Raw. Now, I suspected shenanigans, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit. Building Nexus sent in a $2 super chat. Thank you for that. Says, could we see the Bloodline versus Team Rollins in November? I think it's a little early to be making a prediction on that, but one would think that that will probably be the main feud this year, Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins. I could see that being a SummerSlam match, and they may drag it out for several months, and it could very well be the Survivor Series match, Team Reigns versus Team Rollins. That's how they could finally settle their feud with War Games. We'll see. We'll see what happens. We had a backstage segment where Paul Heyman revealed that Jey Uso fell for it. It was all part of their plan to get Jey Uso to accept a championship match. And then Heyman shared some words of wisdom with Bron Breakker, said that now Jey Uso is not ready for Seth Rollins. Jey Uso was prepared for Logan Paul. However, Seth Rollins has been focused on Jey Uso, and tonight on Raw, they get handed the keys to the kingdom. Another good promo segment here, and I like how they opened up the match and set up a big world title main event. Haven't seen that all that often in WWE. I certainly wasn't tuning into Raw expecting a world title match. We had our first match of the evening, which was Penta versus JD McDonagh. Pretty solid match here between these two. We had back and forth action. JD got the upper hand with a DVD to Penta on the apron. He did a standing Spanish fly, but then Penta was able to make a comeback. Then Balor got on the apron. Finn Balor was out there. Carlito interfered, grabbing at Penta's mask. Penta somehow managed to fight off these guys, and then Penta took them out. Finn Balor, though, knocked Penta off the apron, threw him back in the ring, got caught by the referee, and they were ejected. Carlito, Finn Balor ejected. But then, as this was happening, we had Chad Gable grabbing Penta by the foot. Penta wiped out Gable with a dive, got back in the ring, and then JD took advantage. I thought this was going to be the end here. He went for the moonsault, but he missed. And then Penta picked up the win with the Destroyer to score the victory. Penta beat JD despite all of the outside interference. They made Penta look really strong here, and then they did confirm Penta will face Dominic Mysterio for the Intercontinental Championship this Saturday at Backlash. And again, cheap plug. This Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, we'll be doing our Backlash predictions. Good match here. Penta looking like a superstar, and they keep hyping him up. Michael Cole's saying he might be a future world champion. They really are pushing Penta hard. They haven't slowed down with him yet. Backstage, Grayson Waller was with Adam Pearce, and then Austin Theory showed up, and Waller said that he was offering his match to Theory. Theory was fine with that. Pearce made it official, but then Theory wanted to know who his opponent was, and Waller said that it was better off as a surprise. We had our match, Austin Theory versus the returning Sheamus. Sheamus making his first televised WWE appearance since the Royal Rumble. Unfortunately, he still has that lousy-ass Def Rebel music. I'm still mad that they gave him back written in my face for like a month and then took it away again. I'm still pissed about that. I'm still triggered. Anyways, good match here. Glad to see Sheamus back. And they're continuing the Grayson Waller and Austin Theory storyline, which, as I've mentioned in other streams, I feel like they're 6 months too late with this. I was interested in it back in the summer when they were teasing it. Now I don't care anymore. But yeah, they're back to this angle where Waller and Theory are not on the same page. Good match here, back and forth. Theory did get in some offense, but then Sheamus hit the avalanche white noise, and Theory was yelling out at Waller, "Why would you do this to me?" And then Sheamus did the 13 beats and then finished off Theory with the bro kick. Sheamus picks up a win. Maybe we'll see Sheamus versus his old League of Nations buddy Rusev at some point. Maybe he'll go for the IC title, which is the one championship he hasn't won. And they did bring up all of Sheamus's accomplishments. We'll see where this goes. Shout out to the This Guy Experience. He's not a fan of Penta, and he said he'll see us on Thursday for the predictions. Well, I have to say, my wife very much enjoys Penta. She didn't really care for him in AEW, but she's liking him here in WWE. And she doesn't watch that much these days, so that tells me something. If Penta is drawn into people that don't really follow WWE all that strongly, then he's probably good for the brand. Next up, we had Dominic Mysterio backstage with Judgment Day. Said he'll take care of Penta at Backlash. But then AJ Styles showed up, said he was coming for the Intercontinental Championship. And then Dominic proposed that Finn Balor take care of AJ next week on Raw. At first, Balor teased like he was pissed about this, but then said he would do it. Of course, he probably is pissed, and that's part of the storyline. I'm just upset that they didn't mention the X hacking situation. Like, it would have been funny if Carlito said, by the way, AJ, make sure you have a better password for X. Something like that. I would have been amused by that, but I guess they didn't want to bring any more attention to it. I mean, it was really, really bad what that hacker was posting on there over the weekend. Just a lot of offensive things, racial slurs. It was rough. Anyways, moving on here. Wasn't the best weekend for AJ, that's for sure. We had New Day, the tag team champions, approaching Chad Gable and saying that American Made should be getting some more respect. Not sure where this is all going. We had Becky Lynch come into the ring for an in-ring promo. And she talked about how she is actually the victim. She said nobody cared about Bayley when Becky came out there at WrestleMania. Becky said all she did was take out the garbage. And she said Lyra Valkyria, the women's IC champion, is also garbage. And at this point, Lyra came out there. Lyra said Becky is the queen of recycling, just using the same tired act for years. Lyra said Becky didn't make her. Becky went on holidays. Everybody got better when Becky was done. Lyra said she defended the title more than Becky has even shown up to work in the past year. And then Becky responded by saying it's not her job to help anybody. Her job is to beat everybody. And she said Lyra will only be the moment after the moment. However, Lyra responded and said that for all of Becky's accomplishments, she wasn't the first women's IC champion, and that eats at her. Becky went for a cheap shot. Lyra got the upper hand. We had officials come down. We had a little mini pull-apart brawl between them. But then Lyra took out Becky with the Nightwing to get the final moment before their match this Saturday at WWE Backlash. Again, predictions will be this Thursday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Now, as far as this segment goes, it was all right, but I felt like it was very overly scripted. It didn't come off as authentic to me. Sounded like people that were out there memorizing their script when they were reciting their lines. Just didn't have that realistic vibe to me. Just my opinion on it. It was all right, but not great. Next up, we had Roxanne Perez versus the women's champion, Iyo Sky. Roxanne Perez still being billed as an NXT superstar, which is odd because she's been making tons of main roster appearances, yet she's still technically part of NXT for some reason. I don't know what the deal is with that. Anyways, this was a good match. Roxanne was targeting the knee of Iyo. Iyo made a comeback after the break, did the missile drop kick, but her knee was giving her issues. Then Roxanne regained control. They traded some near falls, back and forth. And then Iyo finally got the win with the after countering several near falls back and forth. She got the win. After the match, they did show some respect with a handshake. But then, of course, Julia showed up, who's also been appearing on Raw, yet still billed as an NXT star. Julia attacked Roxanne from behind, and it was a 2-on-1 attack. No Rhea Ripley, because Rhea Ripley was in Australia promoting the upcoming Crown Jewel event that will be taking place in Perth in October. But they did announce that there will be a tag team match between these two teams, Iyo and Rhea Ripley versus Julia and Roxanne, next week on Monday Night Raw. Good segment here, good match. I very much enjoyed it. Iyo Sky, she's a great babyface. The crowd was fully behind her, and Omaha brought it. Omaha was a very good crowd by the American crowd standards. Like they were hot for the entire show, and they weren't doing the goofy chants. They were just reacting. You know, they were cheering on Iyo. Let's go, Iyo. They were chanting asshole at Paul Heyman. You know, they were reacting appropriately. I really like these crowds. I like when the fans are just there. They get into it. They're not trying to hijack the show with their own little funny chants. You know, they're there to enhance the show. They're actually doing their part and making what the viewers are seeing more interesting. So shout out to Omaha. They were a really good crowd this week. Definitely above average for TV crowds. Dwayne Atkinson, who is loving to troll me, I feel like he's asked me this question 5 or 6 times. Is Karrion Kross the new Sean O'Haire gimmick-wise? Yeah, he is. Karrion Kross is the new Sean O'Haire. You happy now, Dwayne Atkinson? You happy? Is that what you wanted me to say? Yes, Karrion Kross is the new Sean O'Haire. He might as well be at this point because they don't put him on TV. Like, his act could be something special if he got to go out there and cut a promo. Instead, they have him on during the Netflix commercial break. Put him on TV. Give him a live mic and let him do a worked shoot promo. That's how you get Karrion Kross over. All right, let's move on here. He is getting good reactions, so maybe you pull the trigger on the guy, let him go out there, cut a great promo, and he could potentially finally be taken seriously as a credible superstar. All right, moving on here. We had Otis one-on-one with Rusev. Rusev in his first WWE match in about 5 years, maybe over 5 years. Very good match here for a big man match. Entertaining, hard-hitting match with these two guys. They were trying to knock each other down. You know, it was the old irresistible force versus a movable object. And then Rusev caught him with a heel kick. They were both on the outside. Otis just tossed Rusev over the announce table, sent Rusev into the steps. Otis tried to clothesline Rusev, but hit the post. Rusev went for a kick, but hit the post as well. And then back in the ring, Rusev caught him with the axe kick, put on the accolade, and Otis had to tap out. And he got the 1-2-3 victory. This guy, I'm not sure why this guy's emailing me, but yes, you are on predictions for Thursday. I thought I made that clear. Did I say you weren't? I'm confused. But anyways, Rusev wins. No surprise here, but pretty entertaining match. And then afterwards, Tozawa got in the ring. Rusev acted like he didn't want any part of Tozawa, but then when Tozawa's back was turned, Rusev got in the ring, beat up both guys, put the accolade back on Otis, threw him into the ring post a couple of times. Officials had to come out there to get Rusev out of there. Rusev was on fire. This was a great first match back for Rusev. They're pushing him like an absolute beast. I want to see a little tease for the future. The only thing they could have done on this show, like when Rusev is back there, like have him do just like a quick 3-second stare down with like Gunther or Sheamus or something. You know, tease some future matches. But yeah, Rusev looking strong so far. I like it. As I mentioned a couple months ago, a lot of possibilities for Rusev. I mentioned Rusev versus Sheamus, Rusev versus Gunther, Rusev versus Jacob Fatu, even Rusev versus LA Knight when LA Knight is on the same brand, Rusev versus Bronson Reed when Bronson Reed returns. A lot of possibilities for Rusev. I think it was a good time for him to come back. All right, next up we had Adam Pearce moderating a promo segment between Pat McAfee and Gunther. The crowd was chanting, "You tapped out," at Gunther, reference to WrestleMania. Pat McAfee was putting over his friend Michael Cole, calling him a living goat. Crowd was chanting Michael Cole. And then Pat was putting over the city of Omaha. He said that when he thinks of Omaha, he thinks of Omaha steaks. He said, nobody beats their meat. All right. And then he also said that him and Gunther grew up with the same dream. The only difference is Gunther's dream is now just a job. He said Gunther has gotten too damn comfortable. And Gunther overlooked Sami Zayn at WrestleMania 40. And then Jey Uso at WrestleMania 41. And McAfee said that this version of Gunther is soft. Now, Gunther responded by saying Saturday is going to be a special day for him. It's his first match since WrestleMania, and he promised he will not underestimate McAfee. He said McAfee will have his full and undivided attention, and he said only the grace of God can lift his arms from McAfee's throat. And then Gunther stormed away. This was a great segment, another strong promo. McAfee, people hate on this guy, and I don't get it. He's extremely entertaining. McAfee was awesome on the mic here, hyping up this match. I mean, he said everything right. I can't say anything bad about McAfee's promo. Like, he just has that ability to connect with the audience. And then Gunther's response came off very menacing. And McAfee, very subtle, but seemed a little bit nervous. And Michael Cole was like, I hope you know what you're getting yourself into. I thought this was really well done. Another strong segment to set up Backlash. And then we finally had our main event match, Jey Uso versus Seth Rollins. I'll get to that in just a second. But first, shout out to Hamp Connell, who sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you, Hamp. Hamp says, today in history from 2002, the day WWF becomes WWE and the infamous plane ride from hell takes place and costs the jobs of Kurt Hennig and Scott Hall. Hard to believe it's been 23 years since the end of the World Wrestling Federation. But we got the F out, and I'm fine with it being WWE. I did adapt pretty quickly when it happened. Thank you for the super chat, Hamp. I appreciate it. Main event time. Let's talk about it. And yeah, as Ian mentioned, check out the Dark Side of the Ring about the plane ride from hell if you want to know more about that infamous event. Jey Uso versus Seth Rollins, main event, world title match on free TV. Really good match here. And again, shutting up those Jey Uso critics. I mean, this was a really strong match. Back and forth, competitive. At one point, Jey Uso sent Rollins out of the ring and then did this dive and actually lost his shoe in the process. And then after the break, Rollins went for a springboard move but got caught with a super kick. Rollins avoided a spear, and then he hit the buckle bomb, but Jey avoided the frog splash. And then he went for the spear, but Rollins countered the spear into the pedigree. Great counter, but there was a kick out, and the crowd actually chanted, holy shit, for this. Jey finally hit the spear, but Rollins kicked out. Then Rollins grabbed the referee. Braun Breaker interfered. Rollins took advantage with the superplex and Falcon Arrow combo. He hit the curb stomp, but Jey somehow managed to kick out. Then Sami Zayn's music hit. Zayn attacked Breakker from the crowd. Jey hit another spear, followed by the Uso splash. However, Seth Rollins somehow kicked out again. And I thought this was going to be the end. I did not expect the kick out. Then Braun Breaker speared Zayn. Jey was checking on Zayn. Breaker speared Jey while Paul Heyman was distracting the referee. Rollins hit the stomp, and he was about to win the title. But then CM Punk showed up. He took out Breaker with a steel chair. He also attacked Seth Rollins with a steel chair. And we got a disqualification to the end of the show, to end the show. CM Punk got a huge reaction, and the crowd was on fire. They were chanting, "This is awesome," for the match. Punk and Zayn and Jey were standing tall to end the show. I love the main event. My only issue, I think Jey should have gotten the win. I didn't really like the DQ. I don't like Jey losing in his first title defense. They had Rollins kicking out of a lot. The spear and the Uso splash. At that point, when Punk came out there, the referee could have been distracted. Punk could have hit him with the chair. They could have recreated the Mankind Rock finish from 99. I think Jey should have gotten the win. I didn't like the DQ. But other than that, it was an awesome match. I really enjoyed it. And overall, this was a great Raw. I was very happy with it. And I think that it definitely elevated my interest in Backlash. And that's what these shows are meant to do. It was actually a really good go-home show. And I'm giving it a strong 8 out of 10 for this week's show. Definitely a Raw worth checking out. Building Nexus sent in a $2 super chat. Says, does Seth Rollins need new music? If they could come up with a good song, yes. If Def Rebel comes up with some generic crap, then let him have what he has. But theoretically, I think Rollins would be better off with new music as a heel. Absolutely. This Guy Experience sent in a $2 super chat. Thank you for that. Says, did you know that the XFL was featured in the 6th day? I don't know what that means, This Guy Experience. That went way over my head. I barely know what the XFL is. I have no idea what the 6th day is. So maybe somebody can fill me in on that one, because if it's some kind of a sports reference, it went way over my head. They could give Seth Rollins his Messiah music. I'd be all right with that. I don't think we ever heard that on. What I'm trying to say is, I don't think we ever heard that music with a live crowd, like a real live crowd. I think we only heard that music during the pandemic era and not in front of a live audience. I think by the time they did WrestleMania 37, he already had the theme he has now. So yes, there's an idea. Give him the Messiah music. That'll work. I thought that music was fine, and I'm pretty sure that was Def Rebel. So that'll work. Yes, 8 out of 10 for Raw. Definitely recommend. Thank you all so much for watching. I appreciate the viewership and support as always. Thursday night, we'll be doing the predictions for Backlash. And then Wednesday night, I'll be discussing Dynamite. So make sure you guys tune in for that. Have a great week, everyone. Stay safe out there. Say yes to NoDQ.com. And I will see you all next time.